This entitled parent starts yelling at a bus driver because he claimed his car was parked in. But when a bunch of chads come over to prove him wrong, things get messy. Happy birthday, today's your birthday, and on with the revamped show. My mother is a mega Karen, and I have 16 years of stories to tell about her entitlement. Here's yet another one. This happened in 2004 when I was 14. We just moved from Australia to New Zealand. The town had a population of around 12,000 people, which was a big step up from the town we moved from, around 2,000 people. It seemed like my mum's entitlement got worse by having an extra 10,000 people for her to annoy. Within a month, my sister and I had settled into our new schools, and Mother Dearest found her preferred, cheapest grocery store to shop at. I should mention that my mum is not disabled, but did that stop her from parking in the disabled parking spot? Nope. The first month went fine, until my mother got lazy. Whenever we went grocery shopping, she would always complain, while walking towards the entrance, that there was never anyone parked in the disabled parking spot, and she would say things like, "I don't see why I'm not allowed to park there," and "There's nobody in this darn town that needed anyway." This last comment was total BS on her part, as there was a paraplegic who lived in the town which she knew about. And regardless, those spaces are for disabled people, not her. Then one day, me and my sister were in the car while Mum was driving to the grocery store. We usually parked close to the front door, but to the side, where there were usually a few spare parking spots. I was expecting her to stop there, but she didn't. Instead, she drove all the way to the front and parked in the disabled parking spot. "Mum, this is the disabled parking spot. You can't park there." "Of course I can. This spot is vacant." "It's illegal for you to park there. You'll get a fine." "No, I won't. I have the right to park here if there's no disabled person parked here. I don't see any disabled person, do you?" "Whatever, Mum, you're going to get a fine." I got out of the car and walked across the street to the park. I didn't want to be seen with my mum, but I wanted to keep an eye out for the parking officer or police person who I knew would come. Even in a small town, the police were very diligent about rule breakers, and sure enough, 10 minutes later, I saw a policeman walk up to the car, check the license and lack of disabled sticker, and write a ticket that he placed on her windscreen. I sent Mother Dearest a text that I'd meet her at the petrol station when she was done. I didn't want to be seen getting into her car, but I made sure to hang around so I could see her reaction when she saw the fine. Sure enough, 10 minutes later, I saw my mum come out of the store, see the ticket, and she flipped out. She started cursing and stomping her feet on the ground like a child that lost their toy. Only in this case, it was a fine of $80. I chuckled to myself as I walked into the petrol station a few blocks over. I got there a few minutes before my mum did, and could see the anger on her face as she got out of the car, slammed it, and started filling up her tank. Me, faking concern. "What's wrong, Mum?" "You shut your mouth." I smiled and got into the car. When we got home, my mum got straight on the phone to debate the parking fine. I overheard the call. Yeah, I got a fine for parking in an empty parking spot. There was nobody else parked there, but I had to park there because I had a really bad leg and can't walk that far." "What? No, I don't have a sticker, but that doesn't matter." "No, hold on, what? But no, disabled? No, but oh, you stupid. I'm not paying this fine." And she hung up. A month later, I'd assumed she'd paid the fine, but obviously not. She got a letter in the mail regarding an unpaid fine, which was now $100 due to relayed payment. Mum went to the courthouse and paid it, but I didn't hear the end of it for 3 months after that, as she'd complain about it any chance she got, making out like she was the victim. I wish I could say that she learned her lesson, but she didn't. She parked there a few more times and, shock horror, got more fines. A Karen never learns. Again, entitled parent logic, I will never understand it. She's saying that if there's no one parked in the spot, well then I can park there because they're not using it. But the whole point of the disabled parking is to reserve the park for the disabled person. Of course, if they're parking there, you can't park in it. You physically couldn't fit your car in there. Like as if somehow it would be an option to. Like, well, I could park there, but there's a disabled person there, so, you know, out of respect for them, I won't park in the same parking spot. What? So this whole story takes place last summer. My friends and I were on the bus coming back from camp. There were probably 40 people on the bus, differing in age from 8 to 14 to 15. This is excluding the counselors. After about an hour and a half drive, the bus pulls up to the stop that me and my friends need to get off at. The bus pulls into the relatively busy parking lot of a Target. It stops in a quiet corner of the lot where all the parents are waiting. It isn't very crowded, but some cars that are not there for pickup were slightly blocked. As you can imagine, this becomes important later. My friends and I start to get off the bus with the counselors and some other campers. A good handful of campers come from out town, so there's a good 20 to 30 campers, and counselors trying to unpack bags and find parents. Everything is going smoothly until Entitled Parent shows up. As I said before, the parking lot was semi-busy, so some cars were a little blocked by the bus. One of these cars happened to belong to EP, his wife, and a baby. I assumed it was their grandchild because they seemed slightly older. I think mid-50s to late 60s. At this point, probably 70% of the kids have gotten their bags and were finding their parents. So even from someone who doesn't know what's going on, they can probably see that we're almost done. Enter EP. As EP and his wife return from their adventures in Target, he finds that the bus is slightly blocking his car. When I say slightly, I mean he definitely had enough room to exit his parking spot and leave. But being the EP that he is, he decides his best course of action is to storm over to the nearest counselors and start to go off on them. I myself was probably 25 feet away from this dude when he started his rampage, so I could hear every word he screeched. "I have a baby with me. You little better move that gosh darn bus." He was cursing out every staff member he could see, as loud as his voice could muster. Keep in mind that most of the campers were under the age of 13 and were well in earshot. One of my friends also happens to be a counselor, so as this guy is flapping his gums at everyone, this poor kid is trying to move all of the kids away from the encounter. Speaking of encounters, remember how I said that all of the parents were there to pick up their kids? Well, this also included many fathers who were not too pleased that some EP was cursing and screeching at staff in front of their kids. Within 20 seconds of EP's rampage, 5 rather muscular fathers immediately descended upon EP. At first, they tried to reason with him, asking why he couldn't just leave the parking space, as he had more than enough room to exit safely. However, this only seemed to enrage him further. "I can't move it. Let me talk to this dumb driver. I have a freaking baby that needs to get home right freaking now." This didn't sit too well with the father of my closest friend. To give context on this guy, he had been into MMA and boxing his whole life and was pretty much the most ripped guy there. From now on, I'll refer to him as Buff Dad or BD. So BD isn't very pleased with the actions of EP, so he goes over to try and restrain the now enraged EP, which prompts EP to start slapping and punching BD. Within seconds, BD and EP are going at it. BD, being much younger and much fitter, easily helps off EP before being broken up by the other parents. It wasn't pretty and didn't exactly help the situation. After that, some choice words were exchanged. Then EP finally went back to his car with his now hysterical wife, and as a last hurrah, EP guns it out of the parking lot and throws his drink at BD. After it's all over, BD ends up with a bleeding finger and the rest of the drop-off goes smoothly, without issue. Notice I'm not advocating for the actions of BD. It was stupid, specifically in front of young kids, but I had to include it to tell the full story. In the aftermath, I heard from my parents that charges were considered and presented to the police by BD, but were eventually dropped. You know what? If the bus was fully blocking the car from leaving, I would be pretty annoyed too. You don't want to go to a shop and then as you're ready to leave, somebody's blocking your way. That's just not fair. But considering there was enough space to leave, I don't really see where the problem was here. Yeah, maybe you have to be a little more careful getting out of the parking spot, but that's no different from when somebody parks next to you in a really awkward way, and you have to do that anyway. So I work in a candy store, and I work the ice cream booth 95% of the time. We have an ice cream that tastes like Fruit Loops. I live in the US, so we still require masks to be in stores. In the cast is OP, me, CW, awesome coworker, M, manager, EM, Crapstorm Part 2, K1, Sub Crapstorm 1 has a bag, K2, Sub Crapstorm 2. So, around 8, EM leans her head into the store and asks M if we have masks. We do, so M goes and grabs some masks for her and her kids. She closes the door and then reopens it with her 2 kids, about 5 to 7, dashing in and over to the candy wall. "No, you're not getting candy. Come pick out a chocolate or ice cream." She grabs them and brings them over to the ice cream case. "Hi, how are you doing today?" EM ignores me. K1 puts both of his hands on the glass and presses his face up against it. EM pulls down mask. "Good. Can we try a sample of the Fruit Loop ice cream?" "Sorry, we can't do samples." "Why?" "Because of the virus." EM raises her tone. "Why would that change anything? You're just giving people little spoons of ice cream." "Because it would encourage people to take off their masks in our store." "That's stupid. Just give me the darn sample." "I'm sorry, ma'am, but I can't." EM huffs and walks away because K1 and K2 has snuck away to the main counter. She goes over to them and they buy some truffles. She starts chatting at CW and can just barely hear it. "Your coworker is useless. He can't even give me a sample. He should be fired. You guys give out wrapped and prepackaged samples of pralines, and he can't give my son a small spoon with ice cream on it?" I assumed CW finished checking her out and I thought, finally it's over. But no, she comes back over to the ice cream case. "Can I just get 1 scoop of the Fruit Loop ice cream in a cup?" I turn to grab a cup, but as I put it down on the counter and am about to put the first scoop in, she looks up from her phone. "What are you doing?" Getting your single scoop of Blue Moon, the actual name of the ice cream." "I said in a cone, dummy." I'm dumbfounded at this moment. Not only has she called me useless and said I should be fired, but now she's calling me a dummy because she misspoke. Okay, I put the ice cream back in the case and put the cup back. "What kind of cone do you want?" "Give me one of the ones in the middle." I grab a napkin and a sugar cone and start to scoop the ice cream into the cone. I hand it over to the counter to K1. I walk over to put it into the register. "I'm paying up there." "Okay." CW, they got 1 single scoop. EM, K1, and K2 start to walk over to the main counter to pay. But suddenly, K1 stops. "Mom, there's no Fruit Loops in my ice cream." EM turns around. EM to me. "Put some Fruit Loops on my son's cone." I'm sorry, but we can't put toppings on a cone aside from sprinkles because they'd be too heavy and fall off. We also don't have Fruit Loops as a topping. "I don't care if they fall off. Just put some darn Fruit Loops on my son's ice cream." K1 shoves the cone back into my hand. "Fine." One moment. I find manager and ask him where we keep the Fruit Loops. He points to the prep room and asks me why. I explain. I go, grab the Fruit Loops and go back to the ice cream counter and put the cone down in a cup to open the Fruit Loops. K1 rushes behind the counter to grab his cone. "Excuse me, you can't come back here." "But I want my ice cream." "I still haven't put your Fruit Loops on." I grab a pair of rings and reach into the box to pull out some Fruit Loops and I put them on his ice cream. I handed it back to him. "Have a sweet night." We have to say that to all our customers. "Yeah, whatever." She walks to CW's register and checks out. Meanwhile, K1 and K2 have gone over to the candy wall and have started to grab candy and put it into K1's bag. M noticed. "Hey kids, you need to pay for that." "Miss, please get control of your kids." "K1, K2, put the candy back and come here. Your total will be $24.45. She ordered $20 of truffles and an ice cream. EM hands her a 50, grabs her box, and then as CW counts her change, she walks away dragging her kids along with her. CW noticed and chases after her. CW told me that EM said something about CW needed to be more careful in the future. I could be wrong here about ice cream, but don't most toppings come additional, not embedded into the ice cream itself? Like if it's a Fruit Loop flavored ice cream, why would you expect there to be Fruit Loops in it necessarily? You don't expect chunks of banana to be in banana ice cream. And by the way, sorry to shatter your worldview if you hate vanilla ice cream but love rainbow, they're both the same flavor. Submit your story to be read on the channel at VoiceyHereStories@gmail.com and join our Voicey veteran community at r/VoiceyHere. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode. Alright Voicey veterans, I'll see you in the next one.